Summer is right around the corner, and you know what that means. It's vacation time. Here at Dublin Nissan, we can get you ready for vacation, whether it's a new Nissan or Chevrolet or just servicing your current vehicle. And guys, if you're looking for a new fishing truck, you can't go wrong with this all-new 22 Frontier. And if your needs are bigger, we got the trucks for you too. It's your choice. I know what mine is. Remember, Don sells Corvettes well. Hurry in to Dublin Chevy Nissan.
Allen's Heating and Cooling is your licensed Amana equipment dealer. Trust Allen's Heating and Cooling to install and service your heating and cooling unit. Allen services all brands, and with the purchase of a new Amana, offers a lifetime compressor warranty. Call Sean Clark or any of his friendly staff at Allen's Heating and Cooling, your Amana dealer. Amana lasts and lasts and lasts.
It is a great day for business in Dublin, Lawrence County. I hope you've enjoyed a great breakfast this morning. At this time, if you would, help me welcome Mr. Billy Frost, our 2022 Chamber Board Chairman.
Good morning. Welcome to the June 3rd, 2022, First Friday for Dublin. We got a good event this morning. We're going to hear from Josh Powell with the city. We're going to hear from Trey Kent with the County Commissioner's Office, Jennifer Bryant with the Chamber, and Brianna Hamby with the Dublin Mall. She's our sponsor this morning. And while we're mentioning that, thank Cloverleaf and their staff for a good breakfast this morning. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Our featured speaker this morning is Seth Milliken, and I'll talk a little bit more about him in a few minutes. So let's get started with Josh Powell.
This is a good day to be in Dublin. Last night we had a council meeting, the first council meeting of the month, and we're able to pass the fiscal year 2023 budget, which was just over almost $79 million. We've got a very ambitious budget for this upcoming year, a lot of projects that we're working on. The mayor and council also approved for staff to apply for a rural downtown redevelopment grant. Which, if you've ever seen the concept for our Riverwalk project, part of that included connecting Madison Street towards the Riverwalk that we've got plans for. This grant that just came about, we're going to apply for it. Actually, the application is due today, and is up to $5 million, and it will redevelop Madison Street, make it more pedestrian friendly, kind of like a festival street. It's very exciting, and so hopefully we'll get that grant and be able to get that project going. Further investing in our downtown area, which if you've seen Jackson Plaza and the parking lots that we've invested in, we continue to make our downtown area an attractive place for businesses. You've seen all the redevelopment down there, and hopefully this will be just the next step to continue to grow our downtown area. They also approved police ballistic vests, some new ones, some upgraded ones for our police department. And our acting chief of police is doing a lot to make sure that we're providing additional boots on the ground out in the community, and I hope that you've been able to see that. We've had more officers patrolling, less officers sitting in the office, and so we're very grateful for that. In addition, we've got requests for qualifications on an architect to help us design a new public works facility. This will take our gas department that's currently on Washington Street, our public works facility that's down on South Washington Street close to Riverview Golf Course, and also our water construction and sanitation departments, and combine them in one building right there at the Truxton Street property that the city has close to the river. So hopefully we'll be able to get those projects going soon and continue to develop and grow the city.
I didn't get to speak to y'all last month, so I figured I'd give y'all a special treat and talk about taxes this morning. So I think it's the elephant in the room. Everyone probably received their tax notifications last month, and a lot of the values went up. And I've been getting a lot of questions, as you can imagine, every single day. Why are you guys doing this now? What's the reason? And so I want to address that real briefly. The state says that we have to be within a certain percentage of recent sales. And anyone who's in real estate or has any knowledge about real estate knows that recent sales have been through the roof. Property values have exploded in the last 12 to 24 months, And so we're kind of on the back end of that, and we're having to catch up. And so the state says that we can't fall below a certain threshold. If we fall below that certain threshold, they're saying we will not be able to collect taxes at all. And Lawrence County, if you compare us to other counties in the region, we're actually pretty low on our taxes. We have the lowest millage rate of all our surrounding counties, and right now we're the 11th lowest millage rate in the state of Georgia. And so we're hovering right there on the edge of how low we can take our taxes. And if we go any lower, then we're going to be in a situation where the state starts gigging us and telling us we have to raise taxes. So we're trying to get ahead of that curve just a little bit and keep property taxes a little bit more equitable. But if you guys have any specific questions about your taxes or the nature of the tax assessment process, you can just call one of the commissioners or call the tax assessor's office. We'll be glad to answer any questions y'all got.
The City of Dublin Natural Gas provides the most cost-efficient source of energy available today. So for your home, choose the most natural resource. Safe, clean, efficient. All new subdivisions around the Dublin area have natural gas available. Start reducing your energy bills today with Dublin City Natural Gas Department. Natural gas, the smart choice. Call 277-5048 today and let us help you start saving today.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dustin Gay. I'm a local orthopedic surgeon with Houston Clinic Orthopedics, and we'd really like to invite everybody to come out to our new office facility to take a look at it. It's a larger space with physical therapy, and we're just excited to have it, and we'd love for people to come out and visit us.
Come by and see us today at our brand new location, the Houston Clinic, Medical Drive in Dublin.
Jennifer with the Chamber.
We have an exciting event coming up in June. It's the Women's Golf Tournament. It's the second annual event. It's $50 a player, so I see a lot of women in the room. So if you would like to take advantage of this opportunity to have some fun on the golf course, please contact the Chamber of Commerce. It's Wednesday, July 27th at the Country Club. Registration is at 8 a.m. and the shotgun start is at 9 a.m. and there are individual and team spots available. So like I said, if you want to take advantage of that and have some girl time on the green, just contact the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to hear from Brianna with the Dublin Mall, and I think she's got some good news for us this morning.
Thanks you guys all for coming. We always love coming down to the Dublin Mall in the Dublin area. As you know, we're from the Augusta market, so we always love coming down to our smaller markets and kind of see what's going on. I feel like every time we come down here, I'm like, oh, that's new and that's new, so it's always fun. You guys definitely have a go down here. So we have some exciting news. You know, as we kind of get out of COVID and we start seeing numbers and, you know, increase in the mall as far as traffic, we've been seeing re-energizing of tenants from the national market to really want to come down to the area. Some new stores that are at the mall right now, if you've been there, we have Southern Bells and Company. They're a local boutique, really great female-based ownership. She's been phenomenal entering into the market. She's from Vidalia, Georgia, so we've enjoyed working with her. And then Southern Flair Market, I believe they just had their ribbon cutting last week, if I'm correct. They're a consignment shop that's bringing in some local vendors and allowing them to kind of spotlight their products, which has been great. And then we have the National Tenant Boost Mobile that just entered into the mall, which has just starting to kind of reopen. I think they just opened the doors last month, so that's been great for the mall as well. As I said, we've had some interest in some national tenants that were interested prior to the pandemic. Unfortunately, a lot of that halted some of the lease agreements, and so now we're trying to re-energize them, get them going. I can't, of course, disclose exactly who it is, but there will be out parcels that will be filled. I know that's been a big question this morning, as the Mattress Firm out parcel is kind of sitting there. So that's in the works. We are working on a extension of the Belk lease, and with that there's some old language that has stopped us from doing some drive-throughs and some other developments in the property. So with that, that'll hopefully be gone, so we can really fill in those out parcels and add some new stores. We've also been using a new software system called Placer AI, which has allowed us to really show these national tenants the story we've been trying to convey about the Dublin market, that it's not just a 5-mile radius that comes here, it's a 40-mile radius. And that's been able to really drive the traffic and interest, because people are now seeing that it's not just let's drop a pin from the office in New York and it's a 5-mile drive time. No, it's a 40-mile. People are coming here, they're shopping here, they're living here. And so that's really been driving the interest in some of these national companies that maybe in the past have kind of not looked at Dublin because it is a smaller market. With the Hillcrest construction now hopefully coming to the end in the next couple of months, we will be knocking down the old carpet building, and that'll make way for a new out parcel. So we're very excited about that. We have a lot of interested restaurant groups. So knocking on wood, everything goes well. Last week we were in Vegas for a real estate conference, and there we had really good conversations, and next week will be a huge week for us. We're doing a lot of lease negotiations. So if all goes well, in the next 6 months to a year, you'll see a lot of architectural changes at the front of the mall, as well as the interior, and as well as the out parcels. So we're really excited, and if you have any questions or have any local vendors that are interested in coming into the mall, we love local vendors. We work with them. In the past, I know there's been some conversations of us not being as friendly with local as we are with national, but that's definitely changed with the new ownership. So please feel free to come up to me, and we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Here's a big announcement from Central Georgia Primary Care. We're proud to announce the opening of our second location right here on Central Drive in East Dublin. No matter where you are, north, south, east, or west, Central Georgia Primary Care has a health professional waiting to serve you. Central Georgia Primary Care, next to Paul's Tire on Industrial Boulevard in Dublin, and now at our brand new location on Central Drive in East Dublin, right next to Thomas Auto Supply. Need an appointment? Call us at 478-202-9440. Central Georgia Primary Care, waiting to serve you at both locations, Industrial Boulevard in Dublin and now on Central Drive in East Dublin.
Congratulations to the class of 2022 from everyone at Century 21 Durden Cornegay Realty. Remember, knowledge is power, and choosing Century 21 Durden Cornegay as your real estate company, you'll always have up-to-date information on the local market, prompt and professional service, and satisfaction guaranteed. That's what you'll get when you're dealing with the #1 realty company in the area. For more information, visit c21dublin.com. Call us at 272-1535 or visit Century 21 Durden Cornegay at 1700 Veterans Boulevard in Dublin. Broker George Durden.
I've had the privilege of sitting and talking to Seth Milliken this morning. He is the Executive Director with the Georgia Transportation Alliance for the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. Seth has been recognized in various publications for his work on behalf of political causes and policy-related initiatives. He was appointed by Governor Nathan Deal to chair the Georgia Athletic and Entertainment Commission and also serves on the board of the Georgia Wildlife Federation. He is also a member of the American Enterprise Institute's Leadership Network. Seth is married to his high school sweetheart. They live in Marietta. He's an avid hunter and fisherman, so he relates to a lot of things we do in this room. Seth, come tell us what's going on.
When I was here about 18 months ago, we were talking about the growth report. Our plan was to be looking to pass some sort of legislation around freight logistics investment in 2021. We were in the middle of a little pandemic that shut a lot of things down. And we've learned a lot over the last 18 months that kind of informs our strategy here in Georgia about what we invest in, when we invest in those assets, and what the future looks like. So I'm going to back up a little bit, go through a little recap of what we've seen going on in Georgia for the last 10 years or so, talk about where we are now, and then talk about a little bit about what the future looks like. So anybody that's been in Georgia for any period of time knows that transportation is a huge part of who we are here as a state. We were talking at the table this morning about the comparison between Atlanta and Birmingham several decades ago. We're basically in the same spot. And we had some very insightful leadership that decided that Georgia was going to invest in transportation infrastructure assets. And so today we have, and we'll circle back to the discussion about the port here in a few minutes, but the fastest growing port in the country, the busiest airport in the world, and then compare where Georgia is and where parts of Alabama are now. That investment really has helped create the #1 state to do business. I'm sure you've heard that statistic more than once over the last couple of years. That growth we have seen at the Georgia Chamber has really accelerated over the last 10 years or so. Going back to the original T-Splice that passed in 2012, House Bill 170 in 2015, which was a generationally transformative piece of funding legislation that our legislature passed. A lot of good work there done by members of the General Assembly, Governor Deal's office, working through some rural transit issues in 2017, 2018. As we got through that work, one of the things that we do a lot at the Georgia Chamber is forecasting and analysis, looking at geographic changes and population changes and economic changes and political changes that we see coming across the state. And as we began to go through that exercise in 2017, 2018, it became pretty clear to us that the next delta, kind of the next horizon for us from an infrastructure standpoint, was looking at supply chain logistics. Now, keep in mind, this is back in 2018, 2019. We had no idea at the time that looking at today, we would be in the supply chain crunch that we're in now. So even 4 or 5 years ago, it was very apparent that this was the area that we needed to be focused on as the state of Georgia. So talk a little bit about our assets, and I'm not going to hit every single one of these statistics because I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, but this is one of the areas that we focus a lot on at the Georgia Chamber. Our road and bridge network in Georgia is the backbone of our transportation network. We move almost, and the one I want to key on is the fourth end from your left, is that we move over, remember these are 2020 numbers, but we're moving over 6 million tons of cargo just over our road network every week in Georgia. It's a huge part of what we do from a freight logistics standpoint. Again, if you live on the I-16 corridor, you know that. We came to town last night, I think we rolled in about 9 o'clock and still surrounded by trucks. Even at 9 o'clock at night, it's a huge part of what we see in our state's economy. Second area that we think is very, very important to our transportation network in Georgia is our freight rail network. We've got 2 Class 1 railroads in CSX and Norfolk Southern. The work that they do has a direct impact on our state's economy, but it also has impacts on our state's communities. Anybody in here deal with block train crossings? Go away. It's interesting. I always get hands up when I ask about block crossings. So two long-haul railroads, a network of about 25 short line railroads that branch off of those main lines. That's really kind of that last mile connectivity that help get those goods out into the communities. One of the things that I think is interesting about the freight rail industry is that when we talk about job creation, those are extraordinarily high-paying jobs. Those are great jobs, particularly in rural areas of the state where the cost of living is lower. We talked a little bit a while ago about the world's busiest airport. Everybody knows Hartsfield and what goes on there. What we don't talk a lot about is the network of general aviation airports that we have around the state. We've got 107 of those across the state of Georgia, and for communities like Dublin, and Augusta, and Savannah, and Rome, and Athens. Those are a key part of the economic development infrastructure that is used in those communities to grow businesses and bring new businesses online. So Georgia General Aviation Airports. I'm going to camp on this slide for just a minute and talk about some of the growth statistics that we've been looking at over the last couple of years that really kind of keep our planners and our transportation executives up at night thinking about like, what are we going to do and how do we address this. Port of Savannah is the largest container port on the East Coast. Before I go any further, anybody here been down to the port? Has anybody done a tour of the port? Okay, so we've got a couple. For those that have not, if you want to do that, please let me know or let Keith know. It is an incredible experience. If you've never done that, go down there and see what's happening down there. It's the largest container port on the East Coast, fourth largest port in the country, but more importantly, they're the fastest growing port in the United States. So if you go to that second column and look down at the very bottom, I guess it's the first one to your left. When we started this project, the Port of Savannah was doing about 4 million containers a year. We looked at the future and said, hey guys, what do your growth projections look like? And they're saying, all right, we're going to double that by the year 2028. So 4 million by 2028. This was in 2019, 2020. As we stand today, they're going to do 5 million containers this year. They're going to do 6 million containers a year by 2025. There's a high probability that they'll be moving 11 million containers a year by the year 2030. So just an absolute explosion of growth down there at the port. We were also talking about this morning. That growth is coming through forces that are completely out of our control. The global economy is driving that. Import-export ratios are driving that. If we wanted to as a state, it's like, hey guys, look, let's slow this down a little bit. We don't have the ability to do that. So the question for our policymakers, and one of the issues that we've been advocating to our state leaders is, how do we address that growth, and how does the state respond to that growth that's happening at the port? And that's the big question that we've been working on. So we're talking about population growth at the port. We're also looking at, or the industrial growth at the port, we're also looking at population growth across the state. Georgia is one of the fastest growing states in the country. It's projected by most people that in the next census in 2030 that we'll pass quite a few states and jump up to be the 5th largest state in the United States. The challenge for us as a state is that growth is not being distributed equitably across the state. So we have some counties where population growth is going through the roof. We've got some counties where population growth is going to remain static, and we actually have some areas where population growth is going to go down. And that has very real economic mobility and economic development implications for the people that live in those communities. So one of the challenges that we've tried to actively address through our work at the Georgia Chamber is not to think about transportation as an end to itself. And it's real easy for folks like us that work in it to go, it's all about roads, it's all about bridges, it's all about freight. It is those things, but only as a component of our state's overall economic development strategy. Just like healthcare, quality of life, tax environment, education environment, our transportation network is a means to the end of the economic development. And so as we look at this freight logistics and supply chain issue, and we look at the population trends across the state, one of the things we're asking is, how can we build transportation assets that will create economic development in rural and underserved areas of our state that are potentially going to decline in population over the next 10 years. This is just a graphic that illustrates Georgia's strategic competitive position from a geographic perspective across the United States. We're one of the top 18 U.S. goods distribution markets in the country. This is another slide that we took from GDOT. It's just a visualization from a geographic perspective of the role that Georgia plays in our nation's freight and logistics network. And you'll hear this when we play the video in a few minutes. Kind of our message to elected officials and legislators is that Georgia really is poised to become the supply chain capital, at least of the East Coast, if not the entire United States. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Now, before I move to the next slide, one of the interesting things to note about the port and all of that growth that's happening at the port, and this is where we'll talk a little bit about I-16, is that 83% of those containers that come into the port are going on a truck. Now, 2 Class 1 railroads, 25 short line railroads, you would think that more than 17% of those containers are going on rail, but in Georgia they're not. So one of the challenges that we're looking at is, how do we handle that truck traffic? That has a very real implication for the types of infrastructure that we build and how we maintain that infrastructure. So everybody here in Lawrence County drives on I-16. When you drive on I-16, do you drive in the right lane or do you drive in the left lane? You drive in the left lane, right? Because you drive in the right lane, it's like a washboard. That's because of that truck traffic. So there are very real implications for that growth at the port and how that affects our communities and the infrastructure that's in our communities. So for example, when we started this project, and I think I mentioned this last time I was down here, 250,000 truck trips a year between Savannah and Atlanta currently. Let's double that by the year 2030, maybe a little more, 500,000 truck trips a year. So for our folks in the county and with our cities, they're going, how are we going to pay to maintain this infrastructure and handle that traffic and handle that growth? And that's the question that we've been advocating to our state leaders as well. So the other interesting statistic to think about as we think about that growth at the port is that not all of that product, not all of those containers have to stay in Georgia. So if you've got a container full of washing machines, or you've got a container full of t-shirts, or a container full of unfinished goods that are going to go to a manufacturer here in Georgia, most of that traffic has to go to Atlanta. They're going to take it to the yard there, break it down, distribute it out to warehouses, distribution facilities, and retail locations. Probably between 30 and 40% of the containers that come into the port are going somewhere else. So they're going to St. Louis, or they're going to Chicago, or they're going to Columbia, or wherever else. So at a high level, as we think back about that economic development piece in rural parts of the state, if we can find ways to push that traffic outside Atlanta, everybody in Georgia wins. So if you live in a metro area, it's less congestion. If you live in a rural area, it's more economic development. And if you're a shipper here in Georgia, it's better for you because you can get your stuff to market quicker and more efficiently and more inexpensively. Last one on truck flow volumes. Again, this is just kind of a visualization of what it looks like if you're looking at our nation's freight logistics network and where Georgia is geographically. It's hard to get to or from Florida without going through Georgia. And they've got a lot of economic development and freight logistics activity happening down there as well. So what do we need to do? We've talked a lot about population growth, port growth. That population growth is going to drive cars on the road. We're looking at another 1 million or so cars on Georgia's roads by the year 2030. And as we look at this, we have been asking the legislature to really take a step into this and get a better handle on what the future looks like and how we respond to that. So 3 years ago, we partnered with a group of business leaders, local elected officials, state legislators, to create the Georgia Commission on Freight Logistics. A lot of the numbers that I've talked about this morning came out of that commission's work. Really kind of looking around the corner going, all right, let's get our hands around what the future looks like, what our forecasted growth is, and figure out what we do about it. So I'm going to show this video real quick, and then we'll talk about where we are today and where we're going to go over the next 8 to 12 months. Oh, okay.
As the #1 state to do business for the last 8 years, Georgia is the envy of the nation. Over the last decade, Georgia has led the pack in economic development, job creation, and opportunity for our citizens. By asking Georgia's leaders, elected officials, and businesses have worked diligently in partnership with one another to create a some estimates suggest it will grow by another 2 million by 2040. The COVID-19 pandemic brought radical changes to the demands placed on our transportation networks and providers. Over the last 24 months, consumers have dramatically accelerated trends that were already in place. Some experts believe we experienced a decade of growth in e-commerce in just 90 days. Other experts predict that by 2040, 95% of all retail purchases will be online. To address this demand, our Class 1 railroads are now operating trains up to 3 miles long. The Port of Savannah set a new record last October, processing over 500,000 TEUs and will add another 1.6 million TEUs of on-terminal capacity by June of this year. Our nation's trucking industry will grow by 5% in 2022 and cover almost 500 million miles by 2045. Commuter traffic has rebounded to higher than pre-pandemic levels. This growth presents Georgia with a clear opportunity, which means we must make significant investments in expanding the capacity of the roads, bridges, green crossings, freight rail lines, airports, inland ports, intermodal facilities, and distribution facilities that make up our freight and logistics network. Even amid the current supply chain crisis, Georgia is poised to become the freight and logistics capital of the Eastern Seaboard and possibly the entire United States. To truly become the freight state, but these improvements cannot wait. That's why the Georgia Transportation Alliance, in partnership with the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, is launching the Georgia Can't Wait for Freight campaign. We invite you to join us as we spend 2022 educating Georgia citizens, businesses, and elected leaders about Georgia's decade of progress in transportation and a decade of opportunity before us, because Georgia truly can't wait for freight. Learn more at www.can'twaitforfreight.com.
So where do we go from here? I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, leave a few minutes for questions. As the commission finished their work at the end of last year, they passed that off to GDOT to really answer 2 key questions. We get all this. We got all this growth, challenge, potential opportunity. What do we build, and how do we pay for it? So GDOT is currently working on answering those 2 questions. They have 2 studies in the planning division and in the intermodal division. They're due to bring that data back to the legislature, report that back to them by the end of this year, at which point we anticipate from a statewide business and community perspective that we'll step into an advocacy posture at that point and begin lobbying the legislature to pass those recommendations. Between now and then, we're going to do a lot of this right here. I think there are a lot of Georgians that know there's a supply chain crisis. They know that Amazon package they ordered is supposed to be here in 3 days. It's now taking 5. They know they go to the store. This happened to me 2 weekends ago. I went to pick up something at Kroger, and there was one option. There were no frozen chicken wings. There was one option for chicken wings that Saturday afternoon. So they see those impacts. I don't think a lot of people fully understand what's driving that. And more importantly, that Georgia has an opportunity to directly impact that here in our state. So we're going to continue to go through this education process, working through our local chambers, particularly talking to local business communities. So we've already done that first here, and as we move forward, we'd love the opportunity to continue to engage with Heath, your team, your leadership here in Dublin, and Lawrence County, communicating back to you as we see developments, doing social media, doing email newsletters, letters to the editor, and those kind of things as we continue to educate on this issue throughout 2022 and to get ready to lobby the legislature for those solutions in 2023. That's a great question. So she asked about autonomous trucks, self-driving trucks. They piloted they did the first pilot project we went 2 years ago. It's a truck full of beer. Not sure. But it's actually out in Nebraska, so they are working on that technology. I think we're probably 10 to 15 years away from full deployment of that, even from a commercial or industrial perspective. Longer runway on driver or individual vehicles. I think you'll see that kind of technology sooner with railroads because that is a fixed guideway, positive train control, and all these safety mechanisms already in place. So it's definitely part of the strategy. I think you probably have a 10 or 15 year runway for that for trucks. This gentleman.
What's the future of our short line railroad that comes through Dublin?
I beg your pardon?
The future of our short line railroad here in Dublin.
That's a great question. So two things very quickly on that. Previous to 2021, there's a little thing in the Georgia Constitution called the gratuities clause that was put there back in the 1800s, ironically, to help combat some of the corruption that was happening with the railroads back then. And that basically says the state can't invest in a private entity without some sort of return. And so that has prevented the state from investing state dollars in privately owned railroads for the last 100 years or so. So we were able to get the law changed, the statute changed last year to provide GDOT with a workaround to that. So when there's an economic benefit that the GDOT commissioner can demonstrate, then the state can now invest in those kind of assets. So that's step one. Step two, as part of this program, answering those two questions that GDOT is working on, what do we build and how do we pay for it? Our hope is that there is a significant new source of funding for freight logistics infrastructure here in Georgia that would include short line railroads, both to maintain and improve what we have now and expand. So I think for any rail asset in Georgia, the future looks a lot brighter today than it did 2 years ago.
We believe that the customer chooses to buy insurance from people that they trust and that they know. More importantly, that they know that they will take care of them when something happens. The thing that has helped us grow the most as an agency is without a doubt the people. It's the people inside this agency that are the heartbeat. It's the team at Curry Maffitt that forges a relationship with each and every customer that walks in our door. So I would like to reach out and say thank you. Thank you for everything you do for me. Thank you for everything you do for this agency. But most importantly, thank you for everything you do for our customers. When I say Curry Maffitt is an agency unlike any other, it's an experience that we're trying to create for the customer that makes buying insurance one of the easiest things that they will ever do. When you have a problem, you need to know that we will be there for you, but you also need to know that we will respond to you. If you're looking for a more hands-on approach to your insurance needs, stop by and experience what we mean when we say we're an agency unlike any other.
Curry Maffitt Insurance, downtown Dublin.
I'm Thelma Zipperer. I first met Dr. K in March of 2018. In 2017, I had to quit work. I had to go on disability because of my heart condition. In March of 2018, I had gone to the hospital, to the emergency room, because I was actually in the process of having a heart attack. And you know, you hear the term God send, but I believe that God sent Dr. K to the emergency room. I believe he was on call that day for a reason, for me. They called him, he came in, and I had changed insurance because I had to go on disability, so the insurance has changed. So one of the first things I asked him, and he may not remember this, but the first thing I asked him, I said, do y'all take my insurance? And he said, without even batting an eye, he said, we're not talking about insurance right now. I got a patient that needs me. And I'm telling you, that said bunches right there. And then where the other doctor had given up on me and sent me home basically to die, Dr. K went to work and he checked my records. I mean, I have so many heart issues, but he didn't bat an eye. He said, let's fix this. And he started fixing. When I first started seeing Dr. K, like I said, I could barely get around. And now I can do almost anything I want to do within reason. And, you know, I know that God sent Dr. K to take care of me and to give me back my life. And I was even on a diabetic medicine. I was taking 1,500 milligrams of metformin every day. And now as of about a year after I started seeing him, I'm off all my diabetes medicine, and my A1C is staying perfectly below where it has to be. I'm not just a heart patient when I come in there. I'm Thelma Zipperer. I'm a person that needs whatever he can take care of, and I believe that Dublin is so blessed to have Dr. K in this area. If not, I don't know where I would be right now, honestly. Anything that your body needs that he needs to take care of, he gets on it, and he don't stop, he don't give up on you. He says, let's fix this, and he goes to work. I would recommend anybody that even has an inkling they need a cardiologist or just want to check and make sure if they do or not, I would highly recommend that you go see Dr. K. You will be glad you did. You will, I mean, that's just who he is. He is just personable and an excellent doctor. So you can't beat that. You can't beat it.